Hey everyone, welcome to another video. So today we're out and about in a different car, not the MR2 for once, one of my other cars, which is a Mini Cooper S. It's a John Cooper works as well. The R53 model, so it's from the early 2000s, 2004 to be exact. And it's been a little bit of a daily driver, something I shoot around town in. It's a little bit of fun, it's quite zippy. But we're gonna go over this car and why it was almost the car that I built instead of the MR2. And why I actually still love this car. And I thought I'd squeeze this video in because today might be the day that I actually sell the car. So it's my last chance to film something and yeah, tell everyone about this awesome little hot hatch that I have behind me. All right, so here we have the engine bay. Now, nothing really too exciting to look at, but what's important to note is all of the recent Minis are now turbocharged. This first generation actually came with a supercharger, which I'm sure a lot of you actually already know. This one's a little bit more special as it's the Cooper S supercharger with the JCW bits on the side there. We've also got an official JCW tuning kit with a number there in this engine, and that's how you know it's a legitimate JCW, as well as this is something I bought aftermarket and then plonked on, the JCW intake box. So that's actually quite hard to find and in some circumstances can be relatively expensive. I got a pretty good deal on Facebook Marketplace. But yeah, that's essentially the entire engine bay. Very, very cool design with this car. As the whole front section, with including the lights, as you can see, that all comes up into the hood. So Frank Stevenson, I think this is a Frank Stevenson design. This is the guy who also designed the P1. I think he did a fantastic job on this car. And I really actually enjoy watching his videos on YouTube and how he talks about design language and all of his thought process that goes into everything he designed, as well as critiquing designs of the current day and age. I really think he has a fantastic opinion and way he approaches things. Point in case, I own one of the cars he designed. I'd love to own a P1 and a few of the other things he's designed as well, but currently that's out of my price range. But back to the engine. So this is around 200 horsepower like I originally said. Doesn't sound like a lot, but the characteristics of this car make it a lot of fun, especially when you hear that supercharged whine. Now, something that contributes to hearing that a little bit better is this upgraded intake. Now there's an upgraded filter in there as well, and at the back of the intake itself there is a hole that goes out into the back, which would normally just go into this plastic wall here, but we've cut a hole into this wall behind this that you can't see, so it can actually breathe a little bit better, which look, it may help with cooling and performance. I'm not too sure if it really does, because it's, at the end of the day, it's just all encapsulated underneath this back bit here and underneath the bonnet. And as you can see, I mean, the only other way it has to breathe is up and out through here and pull air in. But overall, 200 horsepower combined with a fairly lightweight car, so around 1200 kilos, does provide a pretty fun experience. It's got a lot of character, this car, which is why I love it. If it didn't, then I would have sold it, years ago. I've had this for 2.5, 3 years. And it's just been like the little car that I go around town, especially if I'm parking in a place where I know there's not the best parking. Like say if I was going to go to Newtown or the city or something, I'll just bring this, zip it in somewhere, park it nice and easy, not have to worry about it too much, as it's got a few little bits of patina, I guess you'd call it, or scrapes and dings on it. So I'm not too worried about damaging it. But yeah, it's the perfect car for that, and it zips around nicely. Now let's go inside the car. Now, just at a quick glance, you can see that the interior of these cars are not too special, but there are a few little pieces that I changed that made it a little bit more usable and a little bit nicer to be in the cabin. I would love to have changed the seats to the Recaro GP1 seats, but they are either too expensive or too hard to find within Australia, so I let that slide, and I have been managing with these seats, which aren't the prettiest, but they are relatively comfortable, so I give it that. It comes with a Harman Kardon system, as you can see in the door here, which isn't really that fantastic, but it does the job. A few things that really appeal to me about this car is, first off, we have the manual gearbox over here, and as well as that, we have got an upgraded 3-spoke steering wheel. So originally this came with the ugly 2-spoke steering wheel, and I got rid of that and put this. And this has a little bit more, I guess, size to it, and it's a bit thicker, so it's a bit more, it feels a bit more sporty to grip and drive with the steering wheel. So this actually changed the driving experience a lot, believe it or not. And then of course as well, I've also upgraded the infotainment system here to include this touchscreen, which makes the car 1,000 times more usable as you're going around and taking calls or using your sat nav or listening to music or whatever it might be, as this has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto and all that, and obviously it's wirelessly connected to my phone. And yeah, this was probably one of the biggest upgrades you could do to this car. I mean, obviously performance wise it's great, you could do pulleys and all that. I haven't done any of that, but I think for what it is in its stock form, it is probably enough without pushing it to a point where you're going to start having problems with reliability. So it's still a usable, fun little zippy car, plus now having all this connectivity and the upgraded steering wheel, 3-spoke steering wheel here, make it a much more fun car to drive. All right, so let's go on a little drive. This is pretty fun. This is the first time I've actually taken a video of myself driving with the little DJI up on the windshield, and it's cool to have this little mic set up. Hopefully it's actually recording the audio, because if it's not, that'll be a bit awkward and a bit of a waste of time. Yeah, so as you can see, I mean, going along in this car, it is pretty easy. Like it's just such a smooth little zippy car to drive. Like I'm just obviously driving it quite normally right now, and the car itself, you know, the road's a bit bumpy, but it's not uncomfortable. It's very, very easy to drive. Like the manual gearbox itself is relatively smooth. I was going to do a few things in the way of upgrading the suspension to this car, but like I said, when I initially started looking into either modifying this or modifying the MR2, I made the decision that it would be better to modify a JDM car rather than something like this, which is obviously European, as the parts, they're not exponentially more expensive, they're just harder to find. And then point in case, yeah, I was mucking around looking at some suspension bits and pieces, and look, it's not, coilovers aren't necessarily more expensive on an MR2 than they are on this car. It depends on what you get, whether you go for teens, BC Racing coilovers, or if you want to go, you know, all the way up to KWs or Ohlins or whatever it might be, you're going to end up spending a lot of money regardless of the car. Obviously, at the other end of the scale, if you're doing it on something like a GT3, you're going to spend a lot more than what you're going to spend on a Mini. But regardless, my first thought was, let's have a look at parts available and things that can be adapted to the car. And one of the things that I realized was it is quite difficult to find bits and pieces that are reasonably priced, and you know, at the same time, they don't have to necessarily be new parts. These could be parts that people have taken off their cars and then wanted to sell on marketplace, but you know, there's not too much of a market for that. Look, granted, the MR2 doesn't have the most readily available parts, but there are more options. Especially a big part for me in this whole decision making process is the potential to put on some sort of body kit, or you know, more exciting than stock bumpers and things. Whereas I think the only real option is to go to something which is the Mini GP1 bumpers, or you can put the JCW Aero kit on, both of which are relatively hard to find. There was one time where I was looking to import the JCW front bumper off, I think it was ECS tuning, and yeah, the shipping was a couple $1,000s on top of the bumper being a few $1,000s, so it just didn't really make sense. My friend imported a whole Mini John Cooper Works GP1 to Australia from, I believe it was Japan, for around $20,000-$25,000. So, you know, spending $5 on a bumper on a car like this just didn't really make sense. And I didn't have any real other options. Whereas if you start looking at the MR2, you know, just Google MR2 widebody, you've got plenty of different options. You've got the APR kit, some of which there's the AliExpress replicas that go for a lot cheaper that are probably close enough. You've got the Trial Reckless widebody kit. If you can find one, the Monocraft GT300 kit, of which Luxury Part over in Thailand makes a replica of, as well as multiple other kits. So just even in the aesthetics regard, the MR2 absolutely destroys this in terms of options. So if I do decide to go down that route, I've got plenty of different options to choose from, whereas this was fairly limited. Now, on the actual swap, the Kswap front, so upgrading and getting more performance out of an engine or swapping an engine over, again, it was a lot easier and more cost effective to do it on an MR2. And Not to mention the MR2, even if you got a little bit less performance from a swap or tuning or whatever it might be, it weighs a lot less. So, and like I already know that the R53, you know, we can all agree 1,200 kilos is not a lot of weight. That's very light, and you know, that's probably one of the best characteristics of this car, having around 200 horsepower with such little weight. But the MR2 itself, you know, it weighs in around 1,000 kilos, you know, from the factory. And then on top of that, you'd probably do a bit of weight reduction with either some carbon fiber or putting in a lithium battery or whatever it might be, ripping seats out, you know, etc., etc. So it just seemed like a bit more of an exciting proposition to go and modify the MR2, and also the MR2, something JDM, something a bit more unique, and it's also mid-engined. So yeah, I mean, both of the cars themselves, I get a lot of slack from people saying that, look, these cars, look, we'll give it a little bit here so you can hear. Just up to the speed limit. But hopefully you could hear then, you can just hear the supercharger, you know, kicking in, which is half of the fun of this thing. It's like such a little hot hatch, and it makes sounds like that, and it's zippy, plus it's manual. I mean, what else do you want? Like, I'm not even going fast now. I'm like in third or fourth, putting my foot down, and you can hear it. Like, it's it's a great car, and it handles fantastically well. Like this corner, you know, we're not taking it at speed. We're really just sort of at the speed limit. But as you come out of it, you can roll onto the throttle, and there you go. You've just had, like, you know, a little fun experience in a lightweight car. You know, it's more exciting than probably driving a Suzuki Swift or, you know, other little hot hatches. You don't need to absolutely go and belt on the car to have fun with it. Lightweight, you know, you just throw it into a corner nice and smoothly, and you just enjoy it. I mean, there's nothing more to this car. It's very simple, feels very connected to the road. Obviously, with a few little upgrades, you could enjoy it a bit more, but you know, it is what it is. It's just a fun little car. It's a cheap, fun little car. We'll just go and hear that supercharger again, just ease into it. That sound, I swear, just makes this car that much more enjoyable. I don't have any cars that sound like that. Just nice little build up. And all while you're doing this, you're not even really breaking the speed limit at all. You're just nudging on the speed. Because you don't need to. I mean, this is also a big selling point of the car. You don't need to be blasting past the speed limit to have fun in this. Like, you can go like 8/10 in it without even hitting the speed limit. I mean, that sounds like the car is really slow, which it's not. But still, it's not ridiculously fast. Or I wouldn't even really categorize it as fast. It's just fun. It is just so much fun. All right, so now I've hit traffic again. I'll just sign off the video by saying, absolutely fantastic car. For fun and enjoyment factor, I give it a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. It is just, and bang for buck, it is absolutely such an awesome car. Everyone should experience it. Now, in saying that, I'm not a die-hard Mini fan. I've driven the GP1, so the R53 GP1, also fantastic car. This takes it up a notch. It will take it to an 8 or a 9 out of 10, like fantastic, and it feels even more special. But I've also driven the GP2 Mini, and I think that's maybe because it was turbocharged and I had a little bit higher expectation, or whatever it was. I just felt like the next iteration from the R53 to the next generation would have been, you know, bigger leaps and bounds, but it really wasn't, and I don't feel it was that exciting. And I'm interested to drive a generation, well, the third generation, so the GP3, and I haven't driven one yet. I think it will be fun, but obviously as cars progress in time and get newer and newer, there's more safety regulations and other bits and pieces manufacturers need to add into cars. Therefore, the cars get a lot heavier, which is where I think a lot of the enjoyment comes from, actually driving one of these early gen minis. But that being said, I'm still open to trying out the third gen GP3. I'm sure it'll be fun. But yeah, as for, you know, a collective Mini experience, I feel like the R53, and it's not just because I own one, but I feel like the R53 Mini is probably one of the best Mini experiences that you'll have. Now, I'm not including in that anything that's been modified. I know people have modified various Minis like crazy, and you know, they've fully built engines and put bigger turbos and whatnot on them, or even, you know, completely engine swapped them. Those don't count. I'm just talking from a pure stock standard point of view. Now, with all that being said, I would like to say thank you for watching. It's been a bit of a different video, and hopefully soon with the MR2 I can do a driving video as well when it's actually finished and on the road and working. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. There's a lot more to come, and hopefully in the not too distant future as well, there'll be another really exciting car to come on the channel. A car that's not my own, but it's my best friend's, and he's doing something really unique. I know something similar may have been done on the odd occasion and might be slightly documented on YouTube, but yeah, definitely not to this degree. So it'd be really cool to have that car on. I'd love to hint what it is, but when it's posted, you guys will definitely know what car I'm talking about. So I'll see you then, and thanks for watching.